Merry Meet, Annie here. This video is because I've had several questions because Sophia, my ball, shows up in a lot of my videos, and I've actually had, over the past couple of weeks, quite a few people who have asked me about crystal balls in general and my relationship with Sophia specifically. And I have never addressed that, and I thought, let me give a shot at it. And it's actually not an easy thing for me to address. I knew people in my earliest years in the 70s who worked with crystal balls, and it would have been totally beyond me to ever conceive of having one because of the expense. And the few people I knew who had them were like elders that were at that point my age now, but much older people in our community who, some of them had inherited their balls, and some of them they were just old enough that they were able to get them. And I remember seeing some that were just, the kind of thing you don't come across so much now, not without spending thousands. And the priest who first taught me, and then the priestess that taught me through my 40s, neither one worked with a ball. They worked with mirrors, and they worked with a witch's mirror, and they worked with water in different senses of scrying, but they didn't actually work directly with a ball. Now, in the teaching sessions and the witches' salons and all the discussions that we shared while we were being trained, actually in both of those cases, because I went through initiation with both of those circles, crystal balls were discussed, and I read about them in books, and we did papers on them to report as part of our training. And in the end, I decided that for me it was one of those things that unless I met someone who actually had one and worked with one, I just wasn't finding what it was about them and how to work with them. And I never minded that didn't happen, because I actually didn't have the funds through my 20s and 30s to consider it anyway. And I always thought you had to have some monstrous, big gazing ball. And there were times over the years I would play with fisherman's weights, the big glass weights, or even paper weights. Some paper weights are really fascinating to use for focus, for meditation, and actually divination can come out of them. But there was never anybody who could tell me what it is that's working with a crystal ball. Even through my 50s, I would read pieces in books and would talk to people online who worked with crystal balls. And all of them encouraged me that at some point you need one because you are so connected to your spheres. You obviously need to work with something that is rounded. And I was encouraged by somebody here in my life who does work with a ball of their own and has a rather powerful relationship with it, that instead of trying to figure out what it was, I should go ahead and get a ball and then see what it became. Now that's simple advice that I guess I probably would have liked to have seen someplace. And so I'll give that advice to any of you who are thinking about working with a crystal ball. The first thing is, this is a 50, is it 50? No, it's probably a 60 or a 75 millimeter crystal. It is crystal. However, I have since learned that lead crystal and quartz of all different kinds and even glass work well, which is so much not what you read in books, that it has to be a certain stone and it can't be man-made. And I have decided that our crystal balls are what we make of them. They are whatever our relationship with them becomes. And they do not have to be of a large size. I have found this size has worked great. So the question that I get, of course, is, what do you do with one? So imagine that I'm following the advice of a mentor who says to me, my suggestion is you get one. You're not in a part-time in your life when finances are a problem. Get yourself one and then see what becomes of it. So, okay, I got one, and it came from online. It wasn't something I held in my hand to begin with. It came from online, from a place that I get a lot of my spheres. And I got her on sale, and I did not pay an arm and a leg for her. And she comes, And she comes in a beautiful red box, so those of you who shop at that online place probably know where I buy my balls and my spheres. I opened the box and it's like, oh, isn't she pretty? And it was like, it looked like a beautiful knickknack to me. I didn't relate to her like I do to my spheres. I've actually never been someone, for all so many of us are really in tune with crystals. I've not been. They have not been. It's hard to explain. The more dense, more earthly stones have been the ones that have called to me over the years. So I don't have crystal points. I've never related to one when I've held one. I do not feel the energy so many of you feel. So here I am opening this box. And I take her out and it's like, oh, it's so beautiful. It's so... And then about 15 minutes passed. And I was just so... I don't know how to say it. I was ready, I guess. I was taken by the fact that when I held her in my hands, I didn't have an amazing mystical experience. I didn't go someplace. I didn't feel a vibration. But I just, when I held her in my hands and with the advice that I had been given, which is get one, hold it, and just see what happens. Darned if there wasn't from the beginning a feeling of potential, if nothing else. And I took the advice of the mentor who guided me in this, which is, see what I'm doing? I cannot hold her without, in a way, caressing her. But what's happening is there is an exchange of energy that I actually have a hard time to actually hold her solid for too long. It actually feels too buzzy to me. So I think maybe to her too. I do tend to not be able to hold her still. This is what happens most of the time. So the journey then began for me with Sophia. The first thing is we do need to name our crystal balls. They are a magical partner. They are not a knickknack. However, they will start off feeling that way for a lot of us. Some of you are so heavily in tune with crystal to begin with that if you hold one of them, you are automatically in tune to the vibrations of crystal, so you recognize it and you feel it. And my experience has been someone like me who, a sphere of granite is particularly moving to me. The heaviness and the deep bass of the vibration of the heavier stones is something I do recognize. So I did not recognize this at first. And working with her, my mentor guided me that every night, sit with her, and every morning, sit with her. So she became a presence in my meditations in the morning and at night. Nothing more than holding her. The advice I was given was don't make a thing out of it, just hold her. Let her be part of what you are experiencing. And don't try and lay anything over it. Don't try to say, okay, what are we now? Or what's happening? Or what is this? So for a month, every morning and every night, she was in my hand, part of my meditations. Now, my mentor actually suggested sleeping with her, but we sleep with 3 dogs, and I didn't feel it was appropriate to add a crystal ball to the bed. I did put her beside my bed at night, so that if I woke up in the middle of the night, I would take her and hold her. And I think the important part of the advice I got there was make it nothing more than that. A holding and a feeling of allowing your ball to be an extension of, I don't want to say of yourself, let's just say an extension of experience, that allow yourself to understand, which most of us as pagans do understand, that everything in life has its own vibration, its own way of being. And some of us can't pick up a crystal ball and feel it. That is the truth of it. And it is why in my early years, not having met someone who had that powerful relationship with a crystal ball, that I was left to my own resources. I would pick it up and go, aren't you pretty? I would put it down. End of story. That didn't do anything for me. I'll go back to my mirror, which works perfectly fine, thank you. And the advice I received was extremely good advice. So if any of you are thinking about this, I would suggest not going smaller than the 50 millimeter crystals. That's about 2 inches. I think ideally a 3-inch is adequate. And because you can hold it in your hand and you don't engulf it, the 2-inch ones feel too much like you're engulfing them and that you're within you. Where the 3-inch ones, they're just better size-wise for holding. Now I always imagined, okay, you put your your crystal down and you gaze into it and you see what you see in the ball. And I'm not saying it's not that way for some people, but my experience has been that what happens with a crystal is it's the vibration. It's your holding of it creates a vibration, which I've come to feel that the vibration that is created, not the ball itself, but the vibration of it in combination with your human vibration, your very personal vibration, is a portal that actually it becomes an energy conduit to the other side. Now, that's probably as bad as when I read that kind of thing in books and it was dry and it didn't mean anything to me, is what I have learned about working with a crystal as a human being is there is my vibration, the energy which is only me, no one else has exactly that same vibration. And then there is the natural energy of the crystal itself. And the combination of those two creates an opportunity to work with energy and manifest energy, especially on the other side, that is unique to the combination of the two. It is unique to me and Sophia. And I've come personally to think that that is one of the most powerful aspects of what our crystals are. Whether they are a couple inches wide, whether they are her size, which personally I feel her size is perfect, whether they are larger. It is the partnership, the combination of the two energies which creates the relationship and the buzz that is recognized on the other side.